What is up, guys? It is me here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be doing, in my opinion, the worst two best team power rankings. Now, will this probably have some very confusing things? Yes. And also, I did this by tier list, so let's get into it. So it started out with the worst team in NFL history, and honestly, I was also, by the way, planning to make a next year, like what they look like heading into next year's, but I didn't decide to do that. But starting off with the Indianapolis Colts. Now you're like, what? The Colts are the worst team? Hello? Didn't they won 4 games? Didn't they beat the Chiefs? I get it. But really, do you trust Jeff Saturday? Like, look me dead in the eyes. Let's say Texans, they get a Super Bowl opportunity if they beat the Colts, while the Colts just get the number one overall pick if they win. Which team would really want to win? Texans. Texans are more competitive than the Colts, in my opinion, which is why I put them here. 31, of course, got Texans. Texans are just a team that, like, where do you even start? Like, because probably dumping off Brandon Cooks and Laremy Tunsil, that's a good start. Then draft, I don't know, CJ Stroud in the draft, something like that, and fix the defense with your other first round pick. It's like we've got a lot of stuff to do during the draft that's really necessary. Now, with the third worst team in football, we got the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is just garbage. It's filled with garbage. Do you really see this team going to the playoffs anytime soon with Lewis Kine and Cliff Kingsbury running the things? I don't really think so. Now, then the fourth one, we got another NFC West team, and you guessed it, LA Rams. Now, the one thing that people might want to consider is Baker Mayfield might not be bad in Sean McVay's offense. Like, did you see how good this man has been playing? Like, this man can play good. But, yeah, sure, the LA Chargers game did hurt his reputation, but this man, he still looked good. It's like he has to have the right coach. Now, maybe Kevin Stefanski, was the right coach. He just had a shoulder problem the entire 2021 season. And while then in Carolina, Matt Rule or Steve Wilkes wasn't the answer for that coach. So maybe Sean McVay was. I'm just saying those facts. Now, on to the fifth worst spot. We got the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields. That's pretty much the best way I could describe this team. Their head coach, absolute garbage. I honestly recommend fire him. He's not the head coach of this team that's going to get them to a Super Bowl. Number 2, you have to. Let me say something. You have to fix the O-line in free agency or draft. And you have to use them with at least 1 of 2 probably of your first 5 picks in the draft. And I'm not saying in the 5th round or anything. 2 picks before the top 100 picks. That's what I'm saying about the Bears. I know they're technically rated the second worst, but Justin Fields has looked really good, and that's just proof he is a franchise QB. Just the only issue is he's just having a terrible supporting cast everywhere, and I'm really starting to question, is Matt Eberflus the answer? I don't think so. Now we're done with the worst category. Now we on to the second worst category. Starting out with that, we got the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this team wasn't bad in the first half of the season. Then this team sucked. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Arthur Smith is the guy. Honestly, I had a little question. Is Arthur Smith the answer during the year? Then I thought, okay, he's definitely the answer. And then I'll look back and now I'm like, okay, he's probably not the answer. Arthur Smith has not been doing that well as head coach. I mean, what do you expect? But it's still a little confusing fact. And starting to question, did they really should have fired Dan Quinn? Just saying. Now, with the South's worst team, not people people are going to be surprised about this pick. You got Denver Broncos, and now you're like, oh, you're biased. I'm not biased. This is true. I just think their defense is way too good. And let me say this again. Their defense is one of the best in the league. And honestly, it's just a little frustrating. Well, not a little. A lot frustrating to having a lack of a head coach and a quarterback. That's the only reasons why this team is not Super Bowl contenders. That's the only reason. Like, imagine this team had, I don't know, Bill Belichick and, like, I don't know. Let's just think of, let's say, like, Tom Brady. Let's say that. They're going to win the Super Bowl. Like, it's just facts. It's just that have the lack of actually having a QB and a head coach. That's the issue. Now, obviously, to me, in my opinion, I would say go for Dan Quinn. Because I wouldn't be too surprised. He's definitely going to be a guy who's going to get, obviously, some coaching jobs. But Dan Quinn is my number one option as a head coach. Just saying that. I have a little spot for, as a Seahawks fan, giving us a little about draft picks. But anyways, with the 24th worst team in the league. Well, 8th worst team in the league. We got the New Orleans Saints. Now, the team has looked not that terrible. I almost considered putting them in the 18-22 category, but I'm like, is it really worth it? Don't get me wrong. This is going to be a team that's probably going to look like the worst team in the NFL probably next year because they don't have a first round pick, number one. So that's going to be very huge to helping it. Cap space issues. And not having a proper QB. Or is it because James Winston stopped starting? What? But anyway. Yeah, this is just a mess of a team that's honestly very disappointing. Outside of maybe like players like Chris Olave or Tyrann Mathieu, this has been a very disappointing team for years. Well, it's probably going to be a disappointing team for years to come. Just because of look at the bright future Carolina has. And honestly, I'll talk about that team later. Actually, speaking of it, Carolina Panthers is the next team on the list. Carolina is simply the better team. And Steve Wilkes, he deserves a head coaching job out of it. I'm not even joking. The fact that he made a very terrible Carolina's team into a decent or average at best team, that's insane to me. I really do think that Steve Wilkes is could be a head coach that people, right, on the target. Looking at you, whatever. You know what? But anyway, I really do think Steve Wilkes is a good coach. I also do think that some moves are necessary, like, for example, getting a franchise QB in the draft. But just, like, imagine this team with, like, let's say, for example, Will Levis, and not, like, I feel like with just Will Levis or any at least really good QB, this is going to be a very good team for years to come. If Steve Wilkes is still the head coach, which, let's face it, is not going to happen. Now, the 10th worst team, and it is not even a surprise, it's the Tennessee Titans. This is arguably one of the worst teams in the league, and I do not understand how. This team went to, like, being a couple games away from locking the division to literally now having that in jeopardy, which I think when this gets recorded, their game should be on, or at least, well, when I record this, it's currently 6:14. So yeah, but when you guys get it, probably the game's over, and Tennessee probably let's say they won the division. It's not my fault. Okay, but anyways, Tennessee, what are they doing? Honestly, their offensive coordinator, fire him, and Mike Radel is also going to be a question mark to me, and maybe getting a QB might be a priority in the draft. Now, with the 11th worst team, so we're starting to get to the mid teams. We got the Oakland Raiders. Now you're like, what? How is this team this high? Honestly, here's why. Yes, I understand. Josh McDaniels is not the answer at head coach. And I'm sorry, it's just not true. But Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, they've been very good pieces on the offense. And, I mean, if they really don't sign Josh Jacobs on the contract, that's going to be a little interesting. Whatever. But besides that, this looks like this is a team who just could step up at the QB position. They can really go pretty far. Or I should say head coaching. But anyway, then we got the Browns. Browns have easily been here and there sometimes good team. But the fact that they were still in playoff contention with the they were in the hunt-ish area with Jacoby Brissett at QB really does prove how good this team really is. Now, obviously, Jacoby Brissett's been better than Sean Watson, kind of as I expected. The trade has gone absolutely terrible for Cleveland. Honestly, I don't understand why they wasted 3 first-round picks just to go get a quarterback who's not going to be playing 2 years. That's kind of ridiculous to me. I knew he was going to be rusty out right away as well. Now, people are going to obviously I don't think he's going to change. I don't even care if he gets I don't care about the all season. It's just I don't see this guy being like himself back in Houston, and especially with the scheme, with Kevin Stefanski. And honestly, I would be pretty shocked if Kevin Stefanski does get fired, unless that won't be a good direction whatsoever. Now, with the next team on the list, we got the New York Jets. It is very disappointing to put this team here. Honestly, you're oh my god, this team is about to make it to the playoffs. Both New York teams, not the Bills, are going to make it to the playoffs. And then they just collapse out of nowhere. They just collapse. Obviously, this team looks very good for the future outside of the QB position. Their defense looks good for years to come with the introduction of Sauce Gardner. And honestly, this defense looks really good. And bravo for Robert Saleh. I mean, the good thing about this team is just at least the expectation was a better perspective. For me, for example, which I'll talk about later with the Seahawks, is going to be something I will talk about, but at least your team played better than you were expected. But at the QB position, nope. Now, the next team on the, 19th team, we got the Washington Commanders. Obviously, I feel if this team had just an actual owner that actually wants to win, and this team would probably look so much better. Obviously, the only issue with this team is actually getting a franchise QB. That's the only issue with this team at the moment. But besides that, this team looks pretty good. Their defense, which used to look like a piece of garbage, is now actually, not a piece of garbage, but something. And they're just a QB. Remember, they looked really good until the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season. That's when it just went downhill super quick, and it's just a little disappointing. And they also will probably regret not winning against the Lions because if the Seahawks Lions win, they would have been still in the playoff hunt. So let's think about that one. Then with the 18th team, and this is a little surprise for some people, I actually have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. I don't really see this team, no offense, just to be an absolute juggernaut during the playoffs. Wild card at best. I literally a wild card win at best. But I just do not see this team going so far in the playoffs. And I'm just saying that as facts. Now now we're on to the really mid teams, but also a chance of the playoffs, kinda. We got the New England Patriots. Now the Patriots deserve to be in the late hash of this area because the the QB controversy, and despite how that's been, this team is still in the playoffs somehow, and I'm really happy for that. And they just got, well, not happy, obviously, but they also have a top 7 and top 8 defense, which that's pretty good for the future in New England's dynasty. Well, like the premium of the dynasty rebuild. You know? But then you got the Giants next, which you're like, what? The team that has clinched a playoff spot, or I should say the 6th playoff spot, is this low? Well, that's why. New York, they're just like, they're kind of starting to collapse after, they were starting to collapse after, before finally clinching the playoff spot. That's something that there was a little bit of a concern of during the season. And again, this isn't a team that's like, if it made it to the playoffs, there are going to be a very low chance of them actually even going to make it to, like, Super Bowl or something. Because here's the teams they have to go against. The Vikings or the 49ers. And the 49ers, though, is very low. Lucky. But they still have to go against the Vikings. Obviously, that's going to be a very important game to watch. For me, that is. So, yeah. And then you got the Detroit Lions. And a lot of people will probably be surprised about them right here. Well, they played some pretty good darn football. Not going to lie with you. Lions have been playing just good enough to keep their hopes alive in the playoffs. Crushing teams, but also being crushed sometimes. And go to get some of the, the best team in the league back in week 1. But it's very insane to see how really, truly good this team is. The only concern I would say is that the defense is just playing god-awful. Like, if the defense was, average, great, or good or something, I don't know. This team would be playing a lot more better than you guys would think. Now, with the next team on the list, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this team deserves this spot right here. Main reason, this team's offense has really, TJ Watt, I know TJ Watt is, the big part of the team. That's the reason why they're even here. But Kenny Pickett has looked pretty good, and a lot of people had doubts about him in the beginning of the season. I bet you. George Pickens, no one was expecting him to play as good as he's been. And it's kind of insane, and also with the fact of the lackluster offensive line, they have been playing this good. It's kind of insane. And then you got the top of the kind of middle also category. You got the Seattle Seahawks. Now, to me, the fact I have a decent chance of missing in the playoffs is a little upset, but I'm also a Packers fan, so I'm not really complaining. But, man, this team has been a roller coaster in expectations. My expectation this season with this team was a 7-10 record, which that's kind of insane to say, but I'm like, oh my god, this team looked really good, better than I expected. And this team went, oh, it is around where I expected. And it went back up, and then they finally get a win where it went over expectations. I mean, the fact that they're still in the playoffs right now is pretty insane to me. And Geno Smith having the most completion percentage, that's also pretty crazy. But I still think that the QB is the issue of this team. If this team just had, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, which that is a good chance to happen because they have a top 5 pick because Denver. This team could really look really good in the playoffs. And obviously, I wouldn't be too surprised if they decided just to lose in LA just because, well, they really have. It's better off you getting a better draft pick than actually winning the playoffs because that kind of works. Now we're on to some of the good teams. Starting out in Miami. And now you're like, how is this team this high? Well, it's why. When Tua's on the field, healthy, this is an undefeated team. Yeah, kind of not joking around. Well, somewhat. But again, this team is dominant with a healthy Tua, which I think is the issue with the team is that it needs a healthy Tua, which is my concern to see. And obviously, with the health and lack of actual good health facilities, this is arguably still though a good team. And but honestly, wouldn't be too surprised that McDaniels get fired, which you'd be happy for me as now to a fan after what's happened. Now, got the next spot, got the Ravens. Same thing with this team. If this team has a healthy Lamar, this is a very good and also Super Bowl contending team. But again, the lack of that, they're still anyways in the playoffs. So that's the thing that you gotta question. They're in the playoffs, no matter what. So, but no matter what though, they are in the 6th seed unless they win against Cincinnati. I don't really expect that to happen. And LA losing to, I think, the Broncos, which I also don't see happening. Well, Broncos don't have nothing really to fight for since they don't have first round pick anyways, but it's interesting. But I do see, though, obviously, this team making it, but probably getting kicked out of the first round. Then on to the next team, which is Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, it's been very interesting. Actually, I was not surprised that this is a team that I'm don't really know where to put them. Because one, I thought, oh, this team could also get the first overall pick next year, or this is going to be a team that was a sneaky playoff team, and it's kind of been both at the same time. At the beginning of the season, you're like, oh, this team sucks, and at the end of the season, you're like, oh, this team is actually really good and might make it to the playoffs. That's pretty interesting. And obviously, with the impeccable coaching of Doug Peterson, this has been a really good team, and I'm not that surprised that they've been playing as well. Mainly because of actually having the head coach actually doing good coaching. But yeah, it's been very interesting and very awesome to see how Doug Peterson has kind of revived his head coaching and obviously blames the finger on Howie Roseman about that. What? But yeah. But now we are officially in the top 10. Starting off with Minnesota. Now Minnesota, I literally call right at the moment a fake winning division team. And here's why. Obviously, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, if they somehow win, they're also just phonies for winning the game. I mean, winning the playoffs, in my opinion. But to me personally, I honestly do think that this is just not a team that I expect to win, go to the championship. This team, again, and I have heard multiple times, wild card win at best. That's it. Literally, and obviously it's going to be very obvious because, I think no matter what, they're probably going to have the number 3 seed. Literally, unless they will win against the Bears. But the 49ers are going against the Cardinals. If they somehow lose to a 4-string QB, which, again, not going to happen, this team, literally is honestly just a team in general. This is, again, a team that's probably going to lose in the divisional round. And that's pretty much the best thing for them. And obviously, so... But anyways, then you got LA Chargers to end off the 3rd best tier. Now, LA just clinched a playoff spot. Honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised to just sit all their players out for the game against Denver. But this is a team that has definitely been better during the end portion of the season. And surprisingly enough, it hasn't really been because of Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson, the big-time free agent, has been mainly the other players on that team, which is kind of insane to say. And also their offense playing extremely explosive when healthy. Now we're on to the literally the top 9 teams. I think. No. Okay, whatever. But anyways, we got the Packers with the number 7 spot. Now you're like, oh, you're biased. Let's face this. This team's defense is been just insane for the past 3 weeks. Going against a top 10 defense that, well, not going against the top 10 defense. Going against a team that has put up over 50 points against a top 10 defense and only let them score 12 points. Check. Also destroying one of the best offenses in the league. Check. Despite the concussion protocol. Then destroying the Vikings and also making them look like an absolute fraud. Check. This is the team that is really going to be scary in the playoffs. Even with a sloppy season, sloppy beginning of the season, which obviously will have a huge impact to maybe their portion of the season. But if the Packers just win against the Lions, and let's say, for example, they have Dallas, this is going to be a very, and let me say this again, very scary team to go into the playoffs in the divisional round. Then you got, speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, I have them next on the list. The reason why I only have them here is that they're just because they had such a better season than the Green Bay Packers. But man, this team's been interesting. One moment you think, oh, this season's over, and then the other time you think, oh, this team is going to be a Super Bowl contender. And then the other time you think, oh, this team is like a couple pieces away from actually making it to the NFC Championship or something. Dallas has just been everywhere, and it's very interesting. And obviously, I'm also really wonder what they're going to do with Dak Prescott. But now we're on to the top 5 best teams. And starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have been a very, 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 very good team. Honestly, wouldn't be too surprised they've been good for ages. But I wouldn't be too surprised this is a team that slacks in the AFC divisional round. Well, because, winning a Super Bowl, losing a Super Bowl, losing the AFC Championship game, I wouldn't be too surprised if that happens. But then you got the Cincinnati Bengals, which this team, to me, is a team that might make it to the Super Bowl. I've seen this team. It's just insane. The fact that you have the grudge against KC, which is, by the way, one of the biggest teams in the AFC, and the Chargers, and the Jaguars, and the Ravens, well, depends on this week. This is one of the most scariest teams in the AFC, without a doubt. Not even the Buffalo Bills anymore. This is the most scariest team in the league. Now, Buffalo Bills is the next spot. Obviously, rest in peace with them. Well, not rest in peace. Rip to my Jesus. This is numb. Jesus Christ. I don't know why it's numb right here, but whatever. It's starting. It's a little weird. I'm not even joking. When I feel right here, right on this calf right here, I cannot feel crap. I don't know, it's just because of my... That's a little weird. Anyway, obviously rest in peace to my man Damar Hamlin. I feel very bad, but I also feel very happy with the fact that how his health has been going. So, yeah. Anyway, besides that, this is a team that I thought was pretty overrated. And yeah, a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I thought this team was pretty overrated before the season started. And I still thought they were overrated for a long time this season. And, now I'm starting to have a little passion to them since the Damar Hamlin incident, but it's very interesting. Now, the 49ers next on the list. This is easily, okay, Now we said, oh, Bengals are the scariest team in the AFC. This is the most scariest team, though, in the league. Brock Purdy is easily probably might be their answer at QB, and I will be a little shocked that they actually do end up, well, starting Trey Lance, see what happens, and go back to Brock Purdy. It's not going good. That's my perspective. And also, when are they trading Jimmy G? No, just a question. But also, you got then this scary defense that were killing Tom Brady. Like, this is not going to be a team you want to joke around with during when the playoffs start. Then the last team, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. Now you're like, oh, this team sucks. But the truth is, their 2 losses was because the fact that Jalen Hurts wasn't even playing. If Jalen Hurts wasn't playing, they probably already locked up the NFC conference for the number 1 seed. Which honestly, that is kind of nothing but the truth. So, yeah, I don't know why there's even a conversation here. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoy. Peace. Talk to you guys. Just whatever.